Good morning to you. Got to give a shout out always to my buddy Joey Cleveland, who does the music for me and did a little hardcore rock version of the Call to Post there. We have a beautiful Sunday of racing ahead. I've got my good friend Andrew Champagne joining me. Andrew, it felt like a really good day to come and to dive into the Sam Houston Sunday card. They have a special Sunday card of racing. It's the biggest day of their meet. It's the Houston Racing Festival. We've got the Grade 3 Houston Ladies Classic today. 11 races carded, 6 of them stakes races, 2 of them graded stakes races. And you and I are guys who we love playing Sam Houston. They're a friend of the better. Low takeout, as you saw on that graphic, in all of the multi-race exotics. It's a great day to play some Sam Houston.
If you're concerned about takeout as a bettor and you're not at least looking at Sam Houston, you're doing it wrong. This is a track that caters to the bettor in a lot of different ways. That 12% takeout on multi-race exotics it provides a real boost. You look at tracks that are doing low to mid 20s as far as takeout percentages. Sam Houston's cutting that in half. It's become one of my favorite tracks of the winter to take a look at. And this card there's a lot of betting opportunities. We're going to have a lot of fun going through from start to finish. The fact that I'm awake at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning shows. Tell you a lot. I mean, not everybody has a toddler that doesn't sleep, Gino. So just be in bed, sleeping away. But in here, I'm looking at Sam Houston. It's a great card, and I'm excited to dive in, go through it race by race, and see if we can pick some winners for some people.
Andrew, we've seen your face many times on DRF social media, YouTube, showing some of the DRF formulator past performances with angles and with horses that you give out for best bets. Right now, DRF is offering free formulator for DRF Bets members. Now, they have an incredible promotion right now that rolls all the way through April the 15th. So you still have 2.5 more months to take advantage of this. If you deposit $250 and use the promo code WINNING, you're going to get a $10 free bet. You're going to get a $250 match bonus, and they're going to give you 10 free formulator cards. So you're going to end up having $510, a free bet, and 10 formulator cards right there. Then every $50 you bet, you'll get another formulator card when you're signed up for DRF Bets. Andrew, I think that's the way it should be when you're playing the races. When you're putting your money in, you're not going to have to spend a lot on past performances now when you sign up at DRF Bets, and you get to use the best past performances, in my opinion, formulator. And we're going to be showing you all throughout this show all the cool features, all the tools that you have at formulator. So I thought this was a really great promotion. And I mean, this is going to change things for a lot of people who, sometimes we got to be honest, it's a little expensive for past performances when you're betting, when you got to do all these different things to get involved. I think this is going to be a major help for a lot of people who are formulator fans.
That's for sure. And look, if you're already needing past performances in order to make bets, it's a one-stop shop. And Formulator's got a lot of cool stuff that a lot of bettors are going to take advantage of and have taken advantage of for years. It's a great tool, and you're going to want to take a look at this, especially if you're shopping around at ADWs looking for some of the best promotions. This is one of the better ones out there.
It is. So DRF.com, you can check all of that stuff out. DRF Bets, sign up. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'd be happy to help explain it to you. And if you've been a DRF Bets member so far, you're going to be able to transfer those credits over. So if you've already stacked up credits, you can use those now for formulator. So it's not going to hurt you if you've been a long-term customer. You're also going to be able to take advantage of that really new great deal. So that was the promotion. God bless you, my good friend.
I muted my microphone too. I was considerate.
I know. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. As we get set to dive into this Sunday card, Andrew, it is a fantastic one. I'm going to pull up these formulator past performances right now. And it's one of these days where you actually have at Sam Houston double pick fives, 2 pick fives in the wagering. Both of them are that low 12% takeout. So tell us a little bit about race number 1. We've got open maiden special weights in here. How did you approach this race? If you're playing a pick 5 or however your wagers are going to be, who are some of the horses you were looking at?
Gino, I hope the morning line holds up because I do not like the 6-5 morning line favorite, at least at that price. That's Paluxy, who, yes, ran second last time out, ran third the time before that. Just looking at figures, though, doesn't tower over this group. And it's not like there's a ton of early speed signed on, which is something that I think Paluxy is going to need. I prefer the two horses directly to that one's outside. Number 5 Suppressor is 9-5 on the morning line. And if the 3 doesn't go favored, the 5 probably does. Last time out, didn't run well at Keeneland, but has been away for a while. Comes back fresh. And I love this Steve Asmussen work pattern. We're going to be saying his name a lot over the next hour or so. I love it when he works a horse like this, where the work two back is very, very fast. And the most recent work is sort of a maintenance drill. Granted, it was at Louisiana Downs, so you take that for what it's worth. He's got horses pretty much everywhere, so you've got to figure out, okay, what is this horse at Louisiana Downs for? What's the intention? Yada, yada, yada. But this one has some back form that's pretty good. Ran second and third against maiden special weight foes at Ellis Park last summer. Ran fourth in a high-level maiden claiming race at Churchill back in September. This one has back form that's certainly good enough to win. I'll also be using number 4 Skywave, who hasn't run since March of 2021, but those 2 races at Oaklawn Park were not bad. Second in the debut, fourth beaten 5 last time out. Again, March of 2021, so there's a really long layoff here, but nice steady work tab for a good barn and trainer Scott Young. I think Skywave's got a big shot, and 8-1 certainly seems like an overlay on that one.
Yeah, and for those of you who may be playing today at Sam Houston, maybe you don't play every day over there, just to give you an idea, a lot of times like a maiden claiming race like that at Oaklawn or maybe at Keeneland or maybe at Churchill, those will probably be pretty comparable to a maiden special weight race at Sam Houston. So it's not really like that much of a class hike here with a horse like the 4 Skywave, who's been in those maiden 30 open claimers down at Oaklawn Park, which can come up pretty tough compared to a maiden special weight race right here. So I do think it's a great spot for Skywave. You mentioned speed, and now you're protected. You know, you have a barn who likes this horse enough. They could have run him right back at Oaklawn Park in a claiming spot, but they said, you know what? We like this horse a little bit. Let's go put him in a protected spot. While this might be, like I said, sort of a lateral movement, it at least lets you know that they want to keep this horse around a little bit. So I think Skywave is a must use. You know, the approach for me, if you're playing the early pick 5, would probably be to use one of the shorter prices in the 3 or the 5, and then like another price or 2, if that's your approach. Like if you like the 3 or the 5 enough to want to single them, sure. I would prefer Paluxy, I think, to the 5, mainly just because the 7 furlongs I feel like is the distance that could probably hit Paluxy right between the eyes. The horse that he ran into last time out is a horse named Sam's Time, who's actually pretty decent. Sam's Time debuted at Keeneland and actually ran a good third against open maiden specials. He came over here to Sam Houston in January. He was pretty impressive. He was geared down when he won. It was like a opening up by 5, and then he kind of geared down when he won his maiden race. And then they just kind of sent him pretty hard. He was ridden really aggressively, and he just held on last time. But he's been impressive in 2 starts. So I think I'd probably lean 3, 4 in here. Andrew seems like he's more of a 4, 5. But I think both of us, like always the approach, you know, I saw people yesterday when they were playing some tickets in the Pegasus, like in the Gulfstream races, and those pick 4s, I think, paid $24 yesterday. They were not all that fruitful. But the approach is always going to be key, because I would recommend if you're playing an early pick 5 here or a pick 3, right? Pick 3s are low takeout. Get an opportunity to play a pick 3, and they're for $1. So they actually play pretty well because you have to pay them on $1 base. Pick Paluxy or Suppressor. If you like that horse a lot, single them and move on, or pick one of them and another horse or 2. I would not recommend doubling up with Paluxy and Suppressor. If you're going to be using horses that are both really short prices, it's really bad ticket structure. You know, if you pick one of the 2 of them and you're right, you're going to be able to have a lot more coverage the rest of the way through. You're going to be able to spread out a ton more. And then if you're wrong, you can come right back and play another low takeout pick 4 in the next race, or a low takeout pick 3. It's not quite like some of the other racetracks where they only have that low takeout pick 5. And then some of the other wagers are double. So you feel like, you know, it does make a lot more sense to really put a bunch in the pick 5. You can play that any of the wagers here at Sam Houston. So Paluxy, probably the one to beat in there. Andrew mentioned Suppressor, who's going to take a lot of money, but we both feel like Skywave is a live sort of middle price horse in here who could give you a good run for your money in the early pick 5.
Yeah, that's for sure. And one note on the wagering strategy thing, take a stand somewhere. That's the main thing. If you're going to use, say, both Paluxy and Suppressor in this particular race, have a single somewhere else that stands out a little bit.
Yeah, that's the key.
How you're going to get the most bang for your buck. What we're talking about here is if you use all of the horses that are going to take money and you're just blanketly throwing out tickets there, there's a good chance you're going to hit and lose money on the sequence. So it's one of those things where you're going to want to structure your ticket to where you get the most bang for your buck. And one of the other DRF tools that's out there that can help you with this is DRF Ticket Maker. I find that invaluable, especially in tougher sequences where you've got one or two really strong opinions you want to lean on.
That is race number 1 to kick off the Sunday card over at Sam Houston. Andrew, let's jump on into race number 2. We've got an optional 50 claimer, non-2 lifetime here, 6 furlongs the distance, and we will have, I think towards the outside, Sparky Hale likely going to take a good amount of support in here. Sparky Hale is 2-1 and was a Fairgrounds maiden special weight winner last time out. Now that was against, that was in a restricted spot. This wasn't like a state bred spot, just a restricted spot. Now this is an open race, obviously, but I mean, the conversation probably has to start with Sparky Hale.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. And Sparky Hale is very logical. If the owner-trainer combination looks familiar, these are the folks that brought you Matoli a couple of years ago. Yep. Sparky Hale is logical, makes a lot of sense. The more I look at this race, though, Gino, there's a lot of early speed signed on, and I'm not sure if it's quality early speed as opposed to speed that just ran out ahead of a bunch of maidens that didn't want to win. With that in mind, I want a horse that's going to rate a little bit. And while I would pick Sparky Hale second in here, my top selection is actually number 6, Timed Event for the J.R. Caldwell barn. This is a horse that bucked a couple of trends for J.R. Caldwell, who's a very good trainer on the Texas and Oklahoma circuit. Caldwell's first-time starters don't usually win. This horse won first time out by 3.5 lengths at Lone Star. Winds up going in a stakes race, doesn't go well that day. They put the horse away for a while. Comes back just a couple of weeks ago at Sam Houston off of a long layoff. That was a 6-month break for this horse. Winds up rating just off the pace in a 5.5 furlong race where those who come off the pace are sometimes up against it, and winds up winning that race with a career high Beyer speed figure. One thing to note here, and this has popped up a couple of times, it says Timed Event is a first-time gelding. When you see the gelding date and it is very close to that last out effort, there are a lot of times where that horse was a gelding when it came back. So just take a look at that date before you assume, oh, first-time gelding, that horse is definitely going to improve. It's just one of those things you need to look for because sometimes on some circuits, the reporting on that winds up being a little bit slow. But second off the bench, Luzzy rides back for Caldwell. This is a very good trainer-jockey combination, as you can see down there in the bottom right corner. I think Timed Event is going to get the benefit of a lot of speed in this particular race. You look at the horses to his inside, Casey's Memory is going to go. Lucky Special is going to go. Philo Badeau is going to go. St. Charles is going to go. Sparky Hale's not going to be too far off of it. I think there's going to be a lot of pace signed on, and that Timed Event is going to sit a very nice trip. Now, Sparky Hale makes a lot of sense. Lucky Special, who is 3-1 off.
Andrew, real quick, not to interrupt you, but look at the number here on what you were just talking about, the jockey trainer combo with these two. So this is over the last 5 years for these two, dating all the way back to 2017. If you were just blindly betting your $2, you're making money. Your $2 is a 234 ROI. These guys together, Caldwell and Luzzy, hit at 24%, 44% in the money. They've won 23 of their last 96 starters together, which it's pretty incredible for connections that aren't necessarily big prices either, right? No. Like these guys are usually, they're not always going to be the heavy favorite, but they're always going to be in like the 4 or 5 to 1-ish range, right? We're not talking 20 to 30 to 1 shots. So that's a really great number. Keep going. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but just wanted to.
No, it's okay. And I'm happy you pointed that out. I was looking at my past performances here. I'm cycling between windows, but the important thing is, yes, I like Timed Event based off of the likely pace scenario. The one other thing that I'll mention is number 3, Casey's Memory is 15-1 on the morning line for Austin Gustafson, who wins a lot of races on this circuit. And Joel Rosario is listed as the rider. 15-1, I've got the under on that.
Yeah. First time gelding, beat an open group in the debut.
That's one of the horses that I'd use underneath for sure.
Absolutely. The horse that we didn't talk a little bit about that I'll mention, and I'll just kind of pull up what the race last time out was Keen Cat, who is the number 8 in here. Now, I think if you look at Keen Cat's pattern, you can make a legitimate case for this horse. I'd expect them to be a little more forwardly placed in here from the rail today. So Keen Cat is the 8, and you can see Keen Cat it's not a bad beginning. It's like right up in the early group, but Andrew, everybody else wants to go to the lead too, and you're sort of, now look at where the 8 is. You're 4 deep and you're in between horses.
Yeah, not ideal.
That's a tough spot to be in, right? I mean, you're chasing, you're wide, and it's not easy. I can tell you this for Keen Cat, there's going to be some speed to the outside, but I think they'll be able to get a much better trip trying to just get a good beginning, secure a spot down towards the rail. I'm going to give Keen Cat an opportunity because with his best efforts, they're pretty good. The maiden special weight win in October, sitting just off the pace a little bit, was good. Now, he may have a tough time working out that trip exactly down there, but I just think if you're going to be a horse that's in the 5+1 range in this race, he's a horse who has a little bit of positional speed, who can sit. I ended up using the 2, 6, and 9. I think I'm going to use in my pick 4s and pick 5s in here. You mentioned the 6, and I think Timed Event should run really, really well in here. I'm going to throw in the 2, Keen Cat. I'll probably have some inclusion of Casey's Memory also. So that is race number 2, kicking off your early pick 4. Any other thoughts before we move on to the 3rd, Andrew?
Just that it's an ultra competitive betting race. I mean, your morning line favorite is 2-1, and I wouldn't be surprised if that drifts up a little bit. There are going to be people that blind bet the connections, but my goodness, there's a lot of really good betting races on this program, and we go from one really good betting race to another one.
Yeah, and you said in this race you wanted to talk a little bit about the 11, Bosk.
Yeah, let's watch some movies here. Bosk debuted last month here at Sam Houston. He is the 1A in here. And Gino, if I could trouble you to switch to the head-on really quick, because that is where you're going to wind up seeing most of the reasons that I like this horse in this spot. So he's the 1A, and you're going to want to watch the break here. So he breaks pretty well, and he winds up a furlong out. He's in a really nice spot. He's stalking on the outside, maybe a length or 2 off of the speed. That's precisely where you want to be if you're a first-time starter. You're not getting dirt in your face. Again, not getting dirt in your face. Then he crosses over.
Yeah.
And when he crosses over, he's got run, but he gets stuck in behind horses, and he's taken a lot of dirt in his face. First time out, that's not an easy thing for a horse to deal with. Now, you can see here, he's still got some interest and he's still trying, but the front runners have the jump on him. And he just ultimately winds up 4th, beaten 16 1/4. But I think that decision sort of doomed Bosk in that spot, which is why I like him in here, because he's all the way on the outside. There's going to be nobody to range up to his outside so that he'll have to sit that kind of trip again. Second time out, I think is going to improve significantly, and is a horse that I certainly think you need to consider. Now, as far as the others in here, number 7, Top Hat Cat, I think is going to take a lot of money in here. There's that Asmussen guy again. Yeah. Got a lot of early speed. The thing that I'm not crazy about, though, is you see the first couple of calls, this horse has legitimate top-end speed, but then the warning lights start going off once you hit about the 8th pole. 5-2 on the morning line, and maybe he's just better than these horses. Again, that work tab jumps off the page at me. That 2-back bullet followed by a maintenance drill. That's what I like to see from Steve Asmussen horses. It wouldn't shock me if that one was well meant. I'll also get a little crazy, and I'll throw a first-time starter at you that's going to be a big price. Number 3, Tappett's Cash comes in for a good barn that hit at 14% last year off of a really nice workout. You see 5 furlongs in 102 at a lot of circuits, and it doesn't move the needle. But that was the second fastest of 18 drills at that day, at that distance. Danny Sorensen doesn't ride a lot of horses, but he's been around forever, and he's been off to a nice start at this Sam Houston meet. If you're looking for a first-time starter to potentially light up the tote board at a bit of a price in the second or third spots, I think you could do a lot worse than number 3, Tappett's Cash. But I'm zeroing in on the 7, but more so the 11 in this particular spot. I think Bosk's second time out, getting that cushy outside draw, is going to move forward considerably.
I will include the 4 in some exotics here. Bodymore Heath. You were just mentioning Gustafson earlier on. This is a runner who had not raced from June to January, came back on January, and kind of as expected, just needed the race a little bit, got a little bit tired, was well defeated by a horse named Pinky Ring Bling. Pinky Ring Bling was a horse who was dropping out of open company. You'll notice that this is a horse who was actually was in an open stakes race at Remington Park, came back and was in an open non-2 before dropping into that Texas State Bred Stakes race. So I think it's a really good spot for Bodymore Heath. Second start off the bench, blinkers on, first time gelding. This shows me, Andrew, that they're doing a lot of things to try to get this horse into the winner's circle here. They understand that, the gelding, the blinks, like all these little tweaks, second off should be primed and ready. And this is our buddy Sam Sherman, who comes on the show a lot of times here with me, who owns Bodymore Heath. This has got to be a reference to Wuthering Heights, right?
I'm not familiar.
I think so. I got to check this out. Yeah, this is like a Heathcliff. I'll look into that. So yeah, that back to like high school literature in English is I'm just getting some flashbacks there. So good luck to Sam Sherman, and what an incredible start to the meet it's been so far for Rye Eckleberry, who I think he had 7 wins opening weekend, the first couple days of the meet, and he's just been rolling along ever since.
Yeah, he caught a flyer, and also it helps when you ride a lot for that Broberg guy, too.
Yeah, doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt. So Bodymore Heath for me, I'm going to use kind of 4, 7. I will throw in some of the 11 that Andrew mentioned. Andrew will lean more on Bosk a little bit in here. 4, 7, got to give a shout out to my Nanu, who's watching from above. I'm sure those were always his exacta numbers. 4, 7s, he'd box those bad boys up, and the chalkier the better for him. As chalky as it could be, he'd love that. He didn't mind. So he totally opposite of myself as we move along to race number 4. And in this 4th race, Andrew, we're going to go to the Texas Breds. We've got Texas Bred non-2 allowance runners, 6 furlongs here on the main track. Tell us a little bit about how you saw this field.
First of all, if you hear Texas Breds and go, oh God, oh God, oh God, there are some horses in here with some pedigrees, and you're going to look at this and you're going to see some sires that you recognize. My top selection in particular, I love the breeding of. That's number 7, Mac Be Quick, who hasn't run since Independence Day of last year, but I think has a lot going for him. This is a horse that's never run a bad race. Ran first time out here over this track, won first time out, gets a little bit of a layoff again, comes back at Lone Star, crosses the wire second, beaten a length and a quarter, winds up getting DQ'd out of that, comes back and does everything but win in that race last time out, was dueling through a pace that was legitimate, then goes to the sidelines again, which leads me to believe this horse probably has some issues. But you look at the steady work tab, which I like. I'm not thrown off by the fact that the works are slow. I just want a horse that's steady and got some foundation coming back. Then you look at the trainer, Mindy Willis. You see 2 for 14 and you think, that's okay. 9 of 14 in the money as of the past performances that I've got. Gino, you've got 12 of 21 with 4 wins for a 19% clip. So she's enjoying a really nice meet here. And if you go into her trainer record and just categorize the horses that she's got coming off of very long layoffs, the sample size is not all that great. But if you look at the record, you're going to see a lot of things that you're going to like. So this is one of the cool things about Formulator. You can do this, and he hits apply filter, and we go up. Now, over the past 5 years, you're seeing 18%. Look at that ROI, $3.49. Now, for smaller sample sizes, there are times where all it'll take is one gigantic price to really throw those off. But we got 62 horses and 67 starters here. There's a sample size there that suggests it's not just one bomb that threw everything off. And of late, She's really done a nice job with those horses. If you've got the paper pass performances, you're seeing 30% out of 20 starters with an ROI of about $7. So there was one big bomb in there. But the important thing to take away is Mindy Willis can get a horse ready to run off of a very long break. Now, this is a wide open race. This one's my top pick, but it's not like there are other horses in here that can't win. There's another morning line that I'll take the under on, and that's number 6, Running Jesse. First time Carl Broberg with that Eichelberry guy in the saddle. That horse is not going to be 15-1. I think has a legitimate shot. You look at number 9, Ready Edge, who's 5-2 on the morning line. I think there's a lot to like there, coming off of a very nice win last time out, first start against winners. And then you look at the 2 horses all the way to the outside. Number 11, My Golden M, has been a very honest horse. And my goodness, if you look back to the October race where that horse put up an 80 Beyer speed figure, if that horse runs that kind of race again, he probably wins. I'm just not quite sure that that is a steadier effort. And number 12, Daryl's Little Diablo, I think has a lot of speed. You see 12-1 on the morning line there. It's not like that horse can't win either. It's a good betting race here, Gino.
What's great about this point of the meet, Andrew, is like for someone like me who handicaps the races every day at Sam Houston, I'm getting to the point now where a lot of my trouble trip horses are coming back.
Oh, that's great.
So now I'm like, oh, I remember this horse. They got me last time. So I had the 6. I had My Golden M. He's the 6 here. So I'll pull up the head on too, just to kind of show you, because I like you said, his best effort probably wins this race, My Golden M. So he's the 6th this day, and he just has a bad start. I mean, and then you're just pretty much done. Like he breaks in, he's crossed over on, and he's pretty much done there. So we can go back to the standard race and see the move that he ends up making. He makes this huge, huge move, and he looks like he's going to go right on by, but he just gets so tired and late and absolutely hangs. Hey, Nick Tamaro, we hear his voice in the background. So, yeah, as I mentioned, he's the 8. He was the 6 in this spot here. So he's all the way towards the back. In fact, like toward right here, he's like at the rear exactly. And it's just going to take a little while for him. Not only is he in the rear, he's in like he's in a tight pack back at the rear. So they have to just decide right now, like, let's press the button and let's try to make an early move. So now here goes the 6. He's like 4 deep and in between horses, and he's about to swoop and look like, okay, he's probably the best in here. Like right here, you look like he's going to win. It looks like he's going to just blow right past this group. He's making like a 4-5 wide bid, early bid into the race. And even here, it's like, oh yeah, he's going to go right on and win. He just gets tired. I mean, that's a lot to ask for a horse who has a slow start, who's kind of in between horses, who's wide throughout. I mean, how does he not win this race? He just gets tired. He strikes the front and absolutely starts gasping for air here late. I mean, this is a really good effort from a horse who had the right to get tired in that spot after that kind of trip. He just has not much left here. He was second best in this race, no doubt about it, even though he ends up finishing 3rd late. So I think this is a must-use, Andrew. And this is, like I said, for me, there'll be a lot of these horses coming back the next few weeks who I look at and go, oh, I remember you. You sniped me last time. So I'll be putting a lot in My Golden M. This might even be a horse that on one pick 4 or 5, I single. And then if I can get him right, I can spread out in a lot of the others. So in a really contentious, wide open race, if you have a strong opinion, sometimes that's a good place to try to zero in on. So I think this is a really fun, contentious group. And if I can get around 3-1 on My Golden M, feels like a fair price in a good race.
That's for sure. And that's all you can ask for, right? I mean, you look at those past performances, and if you're not watching replays, you see some stuff you're not crazy about. You see 1 for 8 with 4 seconds, and there are some times where that can come across as a money burner. But you look at a race like that horse is trying. Yeah. That horse overcame a lot of adversity to give himself a chance, and that's the sort of thing you want to see.
Yep, and all of the races prior to the last one that we spoke about were against Open Company.
Right.
And so now, he should fit really well in this Texas bred race as he did last time out there on January the 6th at Sam Houston. So we are now ready to get into the stakes portion of the card. We have 6 stakes races in a row that I will say, Andrew, as we move into race number 5, the the like 16-year-old Gino is a little bit upset that the name of this race has changed, because this used to be one of my favorite races to look at in the past performances, because for many years it was called the First Utilities Turf Sprint, and it was abbreviated the FU Turf Sprint. And I always got a great kick out of looking at it like, oh, what are you telling me? FU, I'd say right back to the past performances.
Let's be real. Let's be real. 32-year-old Gino still got a kick out of it.
I loved it. I loved it. And hey, I was going to say, you're giving me years nowadays. I'm even older than that. So I won't even get into that. But
trying to do you a favor, buddy.
Stephanie's over there rolling her eyes going, no, he's not 32 anymore. We're going to get into the Pulse Power Turf Sprint today, Andrew. We're going to go 5 furlongs on the turf course. And as I mentioned, 6 consecutive stakes races start after this. And I got to give Sam Houston a ton of credit. If you look at the big name barns and the trainers and the jockeys that have shipped in for these stakes races, the amount of barns that don't have any starts at the meet but are coming in for these stakes races just show you how good they are, that the money's there, and that Sam Houston, it's been about 3 or 4 years now where every year the product is improving. They got a bunch of money. They put it into the purses. They put it back into improving the product. They improved their broadcast. They kept the takeout low. And now what ends up happening, it's not overnight, Andrew, right? It's never going to be overnight. It takes a year or 2 or 3 to start to build up that momentum, that groundswell. And then we get stakes races just like this. I mean, this is a fantastic Sunday stakes card. Let's talk about this 5th race and how you dissected this. So if you're playing any kind of rolling exotics, who are some of the horses that you would need?
I don't like the favorite in here. Number 4, Bad Beat Brian, will take a lot of money based off of the race he ran last time out at Gulfstream Park on Claiming Crown Day. One of my favorite days of the year, really celebrates the horses that are the backbone of the industry. You look at those early fractions. You see 21, you see 43. Yeah, Closer's going to pick up the pieces, and it was Bad Beat Brian that fell into the trip. He's a nice horse that has run some competitive races, but 8-5?
Yeah.
I don't see it. And that horse is going to get bet to that price because you see Mike Maker coming to town with Tyler Gaffleone in tow. He's going to get bet. And I think there's reason to bet against him here because for a turf sprint at this level, there's not a lot of early speed signed on. And I think that's going to play right into the hands of the horse to Bad Beat Brian's outside. That's number 5, Grinning Tiger. And Gino, just take a look at the past performances and tell me what happens when that horse is left alone on an uncontested lead.
He wins.
Yep. And I think that's the situation we have here. I don't think you're going to get 10-1. Steve Asmussen and Stuart Elliott combined to win a lot of races here. But I think there's value here even at 5-1, 6-1. If this horse repeats the race it ran 2 back at Remington Park over a nice field of optional claimers, he's got a really big shot in here. And you look at the back form, that's not a fluke. This is a horse that went wire to wire in June of 2020 to win a stakes race over Calbred or Cal-sired horses at Santa Anita going a mile. This is a nice horse that has top-end speed, probably gets some class relief off of the race it ran last time out, off of a 3-month layoff. That was a stakes race at Fairgrounds, won by a very nice horse named Just Might, who wins a lot of races going short on the turf. Got started at this place right back here, Saratoga, over the summer. Maniwa runs second. That horse has been around forever. That is a very classy field that Grinning Tiger ran against and didn't get the desired trip either. Broke fairly slow by his standards. Didn't get to the front end. I think you toss that race and you anticipate improvement second off the layoff, add a little bit of a price. Bad Beat Brian's a nice horse. Wouldn't be surprised if he ran second or third, but it's one of those instances where you need to make a decision. And my decision is I can't bet him at 8-5.
Yeah. You said he's consistent. He will come running. I thought you're talking about not being a lot of speed. And I there's like a couple pressers, right? There isn't that much like need the lead. I'm at 5 furlong sprint speed. The 3 Americanos is a little bit interesting to me. What's wrong with his turf form? His race at Kentucky, going 6.5 is really good, where he kind of sat off the pace a little bit. And then in his second start, they went long on the turf course. He showed speed over a yielding turf course. And then he was, he came back on November the 28th at Churchill. He didn't run well there. I'm fine with excusing both of those last two races. I'm fine with trying to look at what happened on September the 5th and throw this horse into some early pick fives, pick fours, any exotic wagers that you're playing. I'm going to throw the 3 into some. You know what? I don't love the 2 inside horses either because of their draw. I don't think being down inside is going to help them all that much. If they get shuffled a little bit, they could get stuck behind horses. They're both, they have a little bit of speed, but they're not fast as fast as the horse you mentioned, Grinning Tiger, who can probably break well and then cross over on them. So I'm a little bit cold on the 1 and the 2. I like the 3. I'm going to throw in the 5, who you mentioned. The horse who I actually made my top selection is Touch Revenge. Now, Touch Revenge, you don't see on the page any races at 5 furlongs. But when you dive into the past performances and you look at the full past performances, you actually see one that's going 5 furlongs right here at Sam Houston. That's a win. And what's interesting is that was last year. He cut back from the Connolly, Andrew. He went 1.5 miles, and then the next start, he cut back to 5 furlongs and won. You don't see that happen all that often.
No, you don't.
From 1.5 miles to 5 furlongs. And the trip that he sat at 5 furlongs is the exact kind of trip that I would hope for him to sit here today, towards the outside. So I wouldn't be worried about him being a little bit more, being a little wide outside, because he's cutting back. So if he's a little bit wide here, I don't think that will hurt him as much as some others, because I want him to be kind of off the pace, maybe in the clear where he's out of some trouble, and maybe he's just sitting 2 lengths off. He lets some of the speed go, and he's got the fitness. So if the field is within striking range, I think he's going to be right there. It's that guy, Ryan Eckelberry, again, that we were talking about. And look at who he ran into 3 starts back, Andrew. Shout out to our buddy, Darren Zocali. He was a big fan of this horse, In Love, who won the grade 1 turf mile at Keeneland after winning that $330,000 stakes race over at Kentucky, and was only beaten 3 lengths in the Breeders' Cup. This horse was only 11-1 in the Breeders' Cup. So when we're talking about class and some of the horses that Touch Revenge has faced, heck, even look at his his most recent race. He's been facing Sunlit Song and Spooky Channel. Those are really nice horses. Like, Sunlit Song is an awesome Texas bred, one of the absolute best. We're going to see him probably show back up again. Look at Spooky Channel, what he's been doing recently. He just put together back-to-back stakes wins. One of them was a grade 3 race. I think Touch Revenge, has a big shot in here in a race where, again, another race where Andrew and I are both on different horses, but our one common thought in this race is we don't think the short price favorite is by any means a cinch, or by any means a horse who you'd have to just single in and key in on. Feel free to spread around and throw a price or two into your pick fives in this race.
Exactly. And it's one of those situations where, look, do I think Touch Revenge is a likely winner? No. But if you're getting 12-1, I'm not going to talk you off of him. Same with number 3, Americanus. The only thing that really turns me off about Americanus is the fact that Steve Asmussen has 3 in here, and I think Americanus needs to be forwardly placed, and that the stablemate Grinning Tiger is just faster early. Yep. But if you're getting 20-1, I'll tip my cap to you, because it's one of those situations where I think you're going to find overlays, and you can justify taking stands if you like a bigger price.
Very good start to the stakes races in the Pulse Power Turf Sprint, race number 5, coming up a little later on today. Remember that special early post is 11:45 local time. So it's actually 1:45 Central Time, 2:45 Eastern, 1:45 Central Time, 11:45 for me and Andrew here on the Pacific Time. That's where
I got 12:45 for all of y'all on Mountain Time too. We don't want to forget.
There we go. So Sam Houston, which we normally see running at night, they're going to get to shine today on a great sports Sunday where we're going to be watching Sam Houston, watching the conference championship football games a little bit later on today. So all of you sports fans are going to be kicking back and really enjoying a great Sunday. Andrew, we have $200,000 up for grabs in a race that I think in the next couple of years is going to become graded. It has been a really strong race. The Texas Turf Mile, now named for Bob Bork, who I believe passed away last year, Texas Turf Mile, a mile on the turf course for 3-year-olds. Tell us a little bit about how you saw this field.
I think there's a lot of early speed in here, Gino.
Yeah.
Number 2, Dowagiac Chief is going to go. Malibu Thunder is a 50-1 shot with one way of going. Number 4, Chansu, who I think is your likely favorite, is going to go. You're going to take a look at horses like Pure Panic, who's not going to be too far off the pace. You see a couple of horses towards the outside. Number 9, Screwball is going to go. Number 10, Granum is not going to be too far off of it. I want a closer.
Yep.
And I think the most likely winner of the closers is number 7, Stolen Base, who ran last time out in a race that has gained a lot of attention for all of the wrong reasons. That, of course, is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, where Modern Games was scratched before the race, then unscratched, then ran for purse money only, then won as much the best as tens of thousands of people at Del Mar booed like Roman Reigns came out before he turned. I have never seen anything like that at a racetrack before. I don't anticipate seeing anything like that ever again. But going back to this race here, Stolen Base has a lot of back class. It took a little while to figure out what this horse wanted to do. He debuted first time out at Saratoga in a race restricted to, I believe there was some weird condition attached to that race. But this is, it was one of those where the horse
45,000 in their most recent sale. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason that it sort of threw me for a loop is because I knew that was restricted, but then you see the past performances and the sale that's there is $335,000, but it's from the November sale from a couple months ago. So makes the first start for new owners. They keep him with Mike Maker, but they ran that horse there. That was not a good maiden race. I remember that one. Wound up winning, sitting a stalking trip. They tried him in the Saratoga Special. That didn't work out. And then they tried this horse on the turf. Was second in an optional claimer at Kentucky Downs. Was second behind Tiz the Bomb, beaten just 3/4 of a length in the Grade 2 Bourbon, 2-back. Winds up running in the juvenile turf, and those waters proved to just be a little bit too tough.
And
but
honestly, like all that is just running into horses that are just better than you. Like, those are nice animals. Modern Games, who you mentioned, is a freak. You've got Tiz the Bomb, who is awesome. Tiz the Bomb, who's excellent on both surfaces. You've got McKinnon, who is a really, really nice horse. For McKinnon just got a little unlucky because he was in a race where he was chasing no speed last time out. But on the turf, he is excellent. That was a loaded, really strong group.
Yeah, it's a good race. Stolen Base is 3-1 on the morning line. I hope we get that kind of price because he does hit me as the most likely winner. The other closer that'll key in on is number 11, Red Run, who gets Lasix for the first time. Remember, a lot of 2-year-olds could not get Lasix. But Red Run will run with Lasix in this spot. Made the turf debut 2 starts ago at Kentucky Downs. Was 4th behind Tiz the Bomb in a $500,000 race. Comes back to the turf. Gets Rosario, should get plenty of pace to run at. Of the horses that figure to be on or near the lead, the one that I like the most is number 10, Granum. I think that's a horse that could well sit that stalking trip just off the pace and get first run. The question is, can he clear or will he have to sit a fairly wide trip? I had to snicker a little bit here because horse number 9, Screwball, comes out of a race that if you haven't seen that race, there is a horse from that race that got probably the worst ride at Sam Houston this meet. And it really, just take a look at that race. You'll know instantly when you see it.
And you needed Screwball that day too. You had Screwball.
Ran well, just second best that day. Yeah. And in this particular spot, I think there's just too much early speed. But if you're looking for a big price, there's worse to look at when you see a horse that has a win and a second in 2 starts on turf, has early speed, gets Ryan Eichelberry. You know, if you're looking for a horse to potentially run 3rd or 4th and tries their supers, I think you can do worse.
Yeah. Andrew, you and I are going to be really close in this race. Red Run, you look at the only race that this horse has been on the turf. This is the field. This is who he was behind. Tiz the Bomb, who we just talked about, was second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. You look down here, Long Shadow came out of this race to go win a stakes race at Presque Isle. So this was the 7th place finisher, went over and won a stakes race. The 8th place finisher won a maiden special weight race next out at Keeneland. The 9th place finisher came out of this race to also win next out, won a 40 claimer over at Churchill Downs. This was a loaded race. The only time that we saw Red Run on the turf course. I think you can absolutely make an excuse for him here, as he was just behind a really, really tough group. Now, Red Run is a horse who, for the connections, I'd imagine they'll get a little bit of money, but 7-11 everywhere for me. The horse who I was going to mention too, and I will probably throw into to my exotic somewhere, is the One Bloodline. Shout out to Roman Reigns and the Usos, who you just mentioned. Also, shout out to the show on Netflix starring Kyle Chandler, the old coach from Friday Night Lights, Clear Eyes, Full Hearts, Can't Lose. This horse should improve a little bit on the turf, Andrew. The dam has a little turf there. You look at the sibling here, the sibling summary, which is great. Another thing that you can pull up right here on DRF Formulator. You got a multiple winning turf sib there. You got another multiple winning turf sib here. A horse who was actually in group stakes races, a horse who was in the Breeders' Cup Sprint here previously. So there is a good amount of turf success with this pedigree, and a little bit of class too. So I wouldn't talk anybody off of using the 1 at a big price. You know, if you're playing pick 4, pick 3s, I don't think this is a race that has a pick 4 because it's the 6. It's kind of in between. It starts the Space City pick 6, but yeah, I wouldn't, at a big price of double digits, I wouldn't talk you off of the One Bloodline. But lots of 7-11 for you and me, it feels like, in this race, right, Andrew?
Yeah, it's one of those instances where I just think the race sets up for a closer, which, if past performance is any indication, means a front runner we don't have is going to go out in 25 and change, 52 and a half, and cruise.
Yeah, but just at first glance, right, you mentioned Dowagiac Chief, Chanso, Pure Panic is going to be close up. Screwball shouldn't be too far out of it. And then even the 10 horse also should be pressing. So with combinations of all of them, there should be a good amount of pace here signed on. As we move, Andrew, to the big one on the card. We have now back-to-back graded stakes races coming up. This one is the Ladies Classic. Tell us a little bit about this.
So I was looking at the past performances and I'm going, this is race number 7. It's not part of a late pick 4 or anything. I'm like, but then I looked at the late pick 4 and the huge fields that we've got signed on, and I went, oh, okay, I get it now. I don't like the favorite here either. Number 3, Pauline's Pearl, is 6-5 on the morning line off of one race at Zia Park. Zia form doesn't always translate anywhere else. If Zia form does come to Sam Houston, Pauline's Pearl has a big shot. But even so, it's not like she's unbeatable if she runs that race. This is a good little field that we've got going on here. And I prefer the likely second and third choices. Number 2, Audrey's Time, got very good near the end of last year. She won a 1.25 mile race by 7 lengths. You don't see a lot of 1.25 mile races going a whole lot anymore. She then stepped up in class and tried the Grade 2 Falls City, was third that day, beaten by Envutan and Bonnie South. Those are legitimate graded stakes type horses. And the horse that ran 4th in that race was Army Wife. The horse that ran 6th in that race was Crystal Ball. That was a legitimate field. And Audrey's Time did not run terribly in that spot. She came back in a listed stakes race at Fairgrounds. It was pretty wide that day, but still managed to get the job done. I think Audrey's Time is a very nice horse that's coming to hand for a very good horseman in Neil Pessin. If you're familiar with Bell's the One, you know this guy. He is a very, very astute horseman, and I think he's got a nice mare here in this 5-year-old daughter of Uncle Mo. Now, the likely...
So, Andrew, before we get into the other horse, just while we got him here, I love to play a game like this, the Common Rival game. You mentioned Army Wife. Army Wife, who Audrey's Time outfinished, that's the horse who beat Pauline's Pearl a few starts back in the Iowa Oaks. So, you know, you're just comparing Audrey's Time, who is now a newly turned 5-year-old, and look at the older horses that she's been facing. Look at a Vuitton, right? Like, this is a really seasoned, tested, older horse who almost beat She Dares the Devil. Like, this horse took a huge shot at She Dares the Devil, and I still should have won that day, just kind of moved inside and went instead of going to the I think maybe going outside might have worked. Bonnie South. That's another one. Like, this is a nice older horse who's super tested, who's super seasoned. I mean, this horse has been around, like a multiple graded stakes winner, multiple grade one placed, who has faced Latruska over and over. You see Swiss Skydiver in there. I just think Audrey's Time has faced a different level of competition than what Pauline's Pearl has been facing.
Yep, that's for sure. Audrey's Time is my top pick for good reason here. I'll also take a look at number 7, the Mary Rose, who, if you're playing based on speed figures, you see that 95 out of nowhere last time out at Oaklawn Park, and you see a horse that had run some decent races prior in the season, but you see a figure like that and you go, okay, maybe this horse is in line for a bounce. However, just look at the dirt routes, and I think you're going to wind up seeing a lot of things that you like. That race at Colonial back in August, second beaten a neck after pressing a legitimate pace. Back in April at Oaklawn, ran third in a $200,000 race. Granted, that was for Arkansas breds, but it was also against open company as far as gender is concerned. She faced the boys that day and made a pretty good account of herself. I think it's a case where you have a horse that's doing what she wants to do. And even if she does regress into something in the 80s or so from a buyer standpoint, it's not like she's without a shot in here either. I think there are plenty of alternatives to the likely favorite. If Pauline's Pearl beats me, she beats me. This is a Stone Street bred horse, a Stone Street owned horse that has a world-class pedigree. It's as good as you're going to see. Buy tap it out of a mare named Hot Dixie Chick, who was a very, very fast horse. But I just don't think this horse can replicate what she ran last time out at altitude at Zia Park. And even if she does, she's no cinch.
Yeah, first time against older company here. She's, she just got it. She's going to have to improve, I think, a little bit, and going to have to do so off the bench at a short price. Yeah, I'm probably going to single Audrey's Time. And if I'm playing like a late pick 5 here or in some other exotics, I was so impressed with that last effort visually. It was pretty impressive because she didn't have a bad start, but she ended up kind of shuffling back to last. And honestly, Andrew, it was one of those races where they just handled her like she was the best, right? They thought that they wanted to keep her in the clear, just stay out of trouble. We'll just kind of tip you to the outside and just blow right on by. And that's what she did. Yeah, Audrey's Time, I feel like it's a really great spot. And even the 2-back race, right, where she ran against the tough company, you can probably make a little excuse for her because it was in the slop. And those races where she didn't run poorly, but sometimes the finishing margin is a little deceiving because you'll have 1 or 2 horses that just open up in the slop, and in a race that might have been like a 2 or 3 length margin ends up being 6 or 7 or 9 like that one was. So yeah, Audrey's Time, I think, gives the horse I'm going to bet in the Ladies Classic. And shout out on the outside on the Mary Rose, because Raylu Gutierrez, man, he came into the Sam Houston meet last year kind of struggling a little bit. Like he didn't have the best second half of the year before. And then when he came to Sam Houston, was right at the beginning where he ended up picking up a ton of really live mounts. He won with them. And ever since then, it's like, oh, I'm just going to win everywhere I go with all of my live mounts. Anywhere that he's been a high percentage win rider. He put a fantastic ride on a horse yesterday at Gulfstream Park, I believe. So shout out, because they've been doing a great job picking out spots for him, and he's super live here again in a couple spots on Sunday.
I'm smiling because Raylu Gutierrez is one of 2 graduates of the State University of New York at Cortland that I like. I went to Ithaca College. They're rivals. They play an annual football game called the Cortica Jug that I called on radio one year. The other, by the way, one hardcore legend, Mick Foley.
Oh, nice. Really cool. Awesome. So shout out to Raylu, who's been doing a fantastic.
And also, if you're tallying our wrestling references, let us know what the over/under is.
I was going to say we're also coming off the Royal Rumble last night, so we're still in
the less said about that, the better. The less said about that.
More so, we're just in a wrestling mode. I think that was kind of what it is. We're coming off of like being in wrestling mode, so we've got all the body slams and the kicks still spinning around in our head as we jump into the late pick 4, Andrew. And as you mentioned, I think the reason why they probably kept the Ladies Classic in the 7th is because while being a nice graded stakes race, it's not nearly as competitive a betting race as the next few races are. This John B. Connolly going 1.5 miles on the turf course. Wow. You can start making cases for many. We do have the runner-up from last year's race in here with Joel Rosario coming in to ride A Journey to Freedom.
I'm going to say some words that are going to make any handicapper out there salivate. 10-1 single.
Love it. Love it, Andrew.
The pace scenario in this race is slow. There's not a lot of early speed. There's a lot of jockeys coming in from the East Coast. I'm banking that they're going to let number 3 Tide of the Sea get away. And you knew exactly where I was going here. When this horse gets left alone on an uncontested lead, Tide of the Sea is very, very good. When Tide of the Sea gets challenged, he folds like a lawn chair. But I don't think he gets challenged early on here just because this field doesn't have a lot of early speed signed on. I think he gets the kind of trip that he needs, and he's shown an affinity for Tyler Gaffleone, who he gets here. He's also shown a heck of a lot of back class. You look at his past performances, and you see the horses he's been running against. You see Serve the King and Channel Cat and the Grade 2 Red Smith. You see Shamrocket, who's a graded stakes caliber horse. You see the fact that he's run up against a couple horses he runs against in this spot. You see Spooky Channel, who we talked about earlier. You see Arklow. You see a lot of horses that if they showed up in this spot would almost certainly be favored. I don't think we're going to get 10-1. I think this is a case where this horse is going to get bet down to the 5-1 or 6-1 range.
He's a great stable dual horse.
Exactly.
Because of that, he's only going to cost you $1,000 if you're playing in the stable dual lineup, and I'm sure he's going to be shorter than that.
And also, even if he goes off at 5-1, 6-1 or so, I think he's going to play bigger than that in multi-race exotics because he's not the favorite and it is a big field. Now, if you're looking to go deeper than that, I've got a couple other horses that also figure to be prices. Number 7, Malthael, I really hope I'm saying that right, has one start at this distance, and it's a win. Cuts back off of the H. Allen Jerkins like a couple other horses do. Maybe 2 furlongs was just a little too long. Gee, I'm willing to throw that race out. I think this is a horse that's going.
I think you said 2 furlongs, and I think you meant 2 miles.
Yeah, 2 miles. Sorry, 2 miles.
2 furlongs.
You got the gist. If you're looking at the past,
about that for a second. I was like,
if you're looking at the past performances, you saw 2 miles. You got where I was going. Now, we got there eventually, and I appreciate it. But look at that race this horse ran 3 back at Keeneland, where rallied from 7 lengths back, won by a neck. Might need a little more pace than he gets, but there's that Relu Gutierrez guy again. And if this horse runs back to some of the races he ran mid to late last year, I think has a shot. There's also a horse towards the outside, number 9, Another Mystery, who the form doesn't look all that great if you just take a quick glance at it. But I look at this horse and I see a plotter that should love this 1.5 mile distance. That race 3 back in the Grade 3 Sycamore, that's a Grade 3 in name only. The winner was Spooky Channel. We've talked about him a lot. The runner-up was 2 Emmys, who came out of the race formerly known as the Arlington Million, which he won in wire-to-wire fashion. There's back form in here that suggests this one's got a lot of talent. Chris Block wins a lot of races, and I think Another Mystery is not going to get thrown off by this 1.5 mile distance in a way that other horses stretching out might. For me, though, in multi-race exotics, I'm going to single the 3 Tide of the Sea. That's my price play of the day.
Love it, Andrew. Getting bold there. The 9 is an absolute use for me as well. He said, look at some of these races down here behind United and Arklow. Those are good races. There's nothing wrong with those. Too. Yeah, the set piece race here at Churchill, there's nothing wrong with that effort. Even the race behind Busy Channel at Arlington Park, when you're behind 2 Emmys, like a really nice effort there. And then last time out, just put a line right through that race. This horse had no shot after a bad beginning. 2 starts back, very, very nice win. 3 starts back, like you mentioned. He's 45-1 that day. That was a tough spot. Up at Woodbine, he's on the synthetic there behind Tap It to Win, who can run some really good races when he's on his A game. I think Another Mystery is kind of sneaky in here, no doubt about it. I'm going to be throwing him in. We mentioned the 11, who will probably be on some of my pick 5 tickets and pick 4 tickets, A Journey to Freedom. That's the horse to beat, who just missed in this race last year. And you do have Joel, so they'll come running. And then the 3, like who you said, I have to use Tide of the Sea everywhere. I actually liked the race that I saw from Tide of the Sea last time, because I wanted to point out that he actually, and sometimes this is why I like watching replays, because while many times I'll watch them and it'll be like exactly what it looked like on paper, and I probably didn't need to watch the replay, you'll have some here where, Tide of the Sea has a fast start in this race. Tide of the Sea is right there. He's the one. He's on the lead, but the problem is, he just gets stuck behind when Channel Cat goes a little bit faster. And now he gets shuffled from the inside, and then a horse from the outside ends up coming in. He gets totally pinned in. So the race is really over for Tide of the Sea here. Like, once he doesn't get the lead, he's done now. Like you said, Andrew, he's not going to be a horse who's going to kind of settle, really. He's ranked. He's fighting. He wants to go. Boom. Don't even, just cross that race right out. That's an irrelevant race because he doesn't get the lead there. And he wanted the lead, but he ran into a horse like Channel Cat, who's also really aggressive. And you might see the fractions and think, oh, he couldn't get the lead going that slow. But if you didn't watch and see, he wanted to get the lead. They tried to get the lead. I think with Tyler aboard, drawn down towards the inside, they're going to get sent. So I'm using 3, 9, 11 in all my exotics. I'll probably throw 1 or 2 with the 1 conviction trade in, mainly because that last effort was a monster effort. This horse came from the clouds to close going a mile.
And there was nothing in the form that said this horse could close.
No.
Absolutely nothing. You look at the best races this horse has run. This race last year, gets left alone on the lead, is third beat in a length and a quarter. Then in that race, off a little bit of a freshening, first time for a new barn, going down the backstretch, he's 10th, 12 lengths off the lead, and he comes rolling late.
Which is really funny because with Luzzy, you kind of always figure Luzzy's a very good speed rider. So he's usually the one to take horses that don't have that much speed and get a little more into them. This was the total opposite, and I've been really impressed with what I've seen from Lane on the turf going long now. It's like anything, Andrew, right? You improve. There are strengths and weaknesses. It wasn't as much as I hadn't seen him that be bad going long on the turf before, but like when you know that there are certain riders that are speed riders, that's sort of what you think they are. They're the type that are going to get horses out of the gate, break well, put them in a good spot. I was extremely impressed there. And like you said, this is from a class perspective. Horse was third in this race last year, so it's not as if this is a horse who's going to be overmatched by class. I like the fact that we now know he can pass horses. So maybe the trip that they end up looking for is something in between those trips, right? Maybe you don't want to be dead last, and maybe you don't want to go to the front end, but maybe you just kind of save ground and try to sit third or fourth in here, and maybe that's the spot you want. I'll throw conviction trade in 1 or 2 spots, but I'm going to have a lot of 3, 9s, 11s in the John B Connolly. Andrew and I very much agree with Tide of the Sea. He is the most proven classy speed, no doubt about it. If he's left alone, he will be really tough. Grade 3 winner at 1.5 miles, multiple stakes winner there. Tide of the Sea will try to steal it up on the front end. Andrew, we head to the late pick 3, which starts in race number 9. We have the 6 furlong, $75,000 Stonerside Sprint. Tell us how you took a look at this race to approach some of your exotics.
One of the coolest horses in training is in this race. That's number 2, Greeley and Ben. And all you got to do is look at the record. 17 wins from 28 lifetime starts. It is so much fun seeing horses like this. The comparison to horses from recent years, horses like Ben's Cat, horses like Welder, who just recently retired and was on this circuit. All Greeley and Ben does wherever he goes is run well. You look at the campaign last year, they ran him 15 times. No horse runs 15 times anymore.
He won 11 of them. He was in the exact
career.
14 of the 15.
Exactly. This is an honest, hard-trying racehorse that seems to win wherever he goes.
And the only time he wasn't was when they went long with him. Like he had like a legitimate excuse.
And also last time out, or 2 starts ago rather, they ran into Just Might, who we've also talked about a couple of different times. A lot of these horses share common rivals when you're on this circuit. You see those types of things. But even so, 2 lengths back from Just Might, that's a good effort.
It is.
Greeley and Ben is 3-1 on the morning line. I think he comes down. He hits me as the most likely winner. Another horse that I think comes down is another really cool horse that breaks just to that one's outside. That's number 3, Direct Dial, who has been around the Oklahoma and Texas circuit for a very long time.
2018 Texas horse of Texas TTA Texas horse of the year, I believe.
How do you remember that? But at any rate, Direct Dial was a horse that I remember breaking the maiden at Keeneland. It might have been first time out. They really liked this horse.
Yeah.
And this was a horse, you see down there that 7 3/4 length win at Keeneland. That race didn't come back particularly strong, but even so, came back and ran second in the Tremont behind a nice horse in He Hate Me, then ran in the Sanford where he ran into a horse named Ferenzi Fire. Mm-hmm. This is a good, honest, hard-trying horse from the Steve Asmussen barn who comes in off a bit of a freshening. And I love that work tab again. Yeah. Bullet work, 2 works back, maintenance work. I don't think you're getting 8 to 1 on this horse. I don't think you're getting half of that. But if you get past Greeley and Ben, I think Direct Dial is the other horse that's in with a very big shot here. This is a nice field. There are a couple of horses in here that you've heard of. Knee Deep in Snow ran in a couple of graded races back in 2021 out at Santa Anita. Not without a shot. I just don't think has the early speed to keep up with my top 2 picks. For me, this is either 2-3 or 3-2, and that's going to be pretty chalky. But again, you take a stand somewhere. My stand in the late multi-race exotics is the fact that I'm going to be singling Tide of the Sea. And with that in mind, regardless of what happens anywhere else, if Tide of the Sea gets home, I can afford to spend a little bit elsewhere and get some coverage.
Yeah, I will talk about the 5 a little bit in here. Knee Deep in Snow. I've been following this horse for a while, mainly because it always seems to happen like this. So I had Knee Deep in Snow back here at 24 to 1 when he just missed at Santa Anita in May of 2020. And I just started following along ever since because I knew what was going to happen. You miss him at 24 to 1. He comes back the next day as the chalk.
7 to 5.
Right at the chalk, and he wins. So I've always followed him along. And he's been like a really nice sort of upper allowance type horse. And you'll see they threw him in the Palos Verdes back at the in January of 2021. And I don't think it was the class that hurt him that day. I think there was some sort of a physical issue because he was gone from January to August. He shows back up in August in the Green Flash. And again, he kind of runs into a tough group. Remember Lieutenant Dan, who ran his eyeballs out in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint and was like trying to get to Golden Pal? I remember because I was closing the pick 5 that day and I needed Lieutenant Dan. No Golden Pals. I tried to beat that one. That was not the smartest call on my part. Nonetheless, Knee Deep in Snow is just in great form right now, too. Since that return, you got the 4th against Lieutenant Dan. You come back in your 2nd in a really nice 2nd level allowance race. You try the grass again, off a little bit slow. It just doesn't seem like he's as good on the turf as he is on the main track. So I'm okay with excusing some of the turf races.
Shout out to former owner Michael Ivarone, living large.
Oh, yeah. As comes back off a little bit slow and back-to-back starts, has some trouble in this December race. And then on January the 14th was really good that day. When he has a good beginning, he's kind of got that really nice tracking speed where he can sit just off the pace. And this was a really tough group too. 7 Nation Army just came back yesterday and ran 3rd in the King Cotton to frank that form a little bit. The 3rd place finisher, CZ Rocket. We know CZ Rocket is a really classy individual who is your runner-up in the Breeders' Cup a couple years back in the sprint. So I think Knee Deep in Snow is in a great spot here. I think it's very well met. Mike Maker has an opportunity to win a couple races on the card. 6 furlongs feels perfect for Knee Deep in Snow to sit just off the pace. I think down towards the inside, you'll probably have the horse that Andrew mentioned, Greeley and Ben. He'll be quick. And I think because of the draw of County Final, it might make this pace really fast. So I think the one, because he draws the rail, they're going to sort of have to gun him a little bit. Greeley and Ben is right next door. He can stalk a little bit, but if he's right outside of the pace, he may have to end up getting caught up in that pace. And then I think they may go a little quicker because of that. I'm hoping Knee Deep in Snow ends up sitting like 3rd or 4th, maybe 2 lengths off, because we know Top Gunner is also quick. Isolate, I wouldn't be shocked if they're going to be forwardly placed in the mix here too. So I'm looking at the 5. I do want to mention another really cool Texas bred, Andrew. Mr Moneybags. This is a horse who's earned $500 and almost $75,000. This is a horse who has speed, but he can pass. He's perfect at Sam Houston. He most recently won a stakes at Zia, and this is a tough spot for him. He's going to be facing some other classy horses who have been in against open company, but he's a really cool Texas bred. We mentioned Direct Dial, who's a nice one. Mr Moneybags deserves a shout out here as well.
Yeah, this is a good field. It's a very good field with a lot of honest, hard-trying horses that have made a lot of money the hard way. It's a good card. You're going to see horses like this in a lot of different spots. And again, looking at the Houston Ladies Classic, I went, this is the main event. Why isn't it in the late pick 4? And then you look at the races that are in the late pick 4 and you're going, oh.
That's why. That's why. We've got 2 more to discuss. We've got the late daily double. And what's great, I was someone who I used to play a lot of doubles in pick 3s, but then as I became more takeout snobby, I got, focusing in on how much they would sort of hurt your wallet. But now when I'm at Sam Houston, to me as a bettor, it's the best track to be able to wager on, because I never feel forced into playing any specific wagers.
Right.
I can handicap the card, and whatever the sequence I like the most, I can feel really good about that. Like if it's a late double that you like the most, hammer that thing, because it's only a 12% double. And most other places, the double is double the takeout percentage. See what I did there? And
really quick.
Go ahead.
Just piggybacking off of that, because I don't want to lose this thought. Dirty little secret for anybody that spent the last hour listening to us. And if you have, thank you. Know that we appreciate you. You don't have to play every multi-race exotic sequence. No. If you're looking at a late pick 4 and you see 3 by 3 by 3 by 3 as your likely ticket, that's a $40.50 ticket. And unless you're tossing horses that are likely to be heavy favorites, you could play that and lose money.
Yeah.
You got to take a look at the wagers that provide the most bang for your buck. And it's nice to be able to have a wagering menu that caters to the horse player like Sam Houston is doing. And it's great that they've been able to get recognition for that over the last couple of years.
Yeah, they broke an opening day handle record this year. Let's break the all-time handle record today for their big day, Andrew. Let's get into the Jersey Lily Turf. This is the final of the 6 stakes races. Then we'll talk race number 11, which is the final race on the card. So they'll go a mile and a 16th here, Andrew. If you're alive in pick 4s, pick 5s, any kind of rolling exotics, how deep do you need to go here? Tell us some of the horses who you'd want on your ticket.
So I'm going 2 deep using 1 logical and 1 insane horse. The logical horse, and the horse that I think is far and away the most likely winner, is number 2, Breeze Rider. As you can hear the sirens in the background. When I said insane horse, someone's
coming after you.
Yeah. So this is another turf race where I don't think there's a lot of speed signed on. I think the speed duel, if there is one, is going to come down to Breeze Rider and number 3, Lavender. And I think Breeze Rider is faster. I think Breeze Rider is going to go early beneath a very aggressive rider in E.T. Baird, who has experienced a career resurgence over the last year or 2. And I think Breeze Rider, whose lone start over this turf course was a win, is going to love everything about this spot. 5 for 6, going a mile and a 16th with a 3rd place finish, 11 to 25 lifetime. Just an honest horse. They tried turf with this one last time out at Oaklawn. That's not what this horse wants to do. I have no problem drawing a line through that race. I think Breeze Rider could lead them from flag fall to that's all. But this is a but here. If the tote board is going to explode, I think it's number 10, Lady Gwen, that pushes the button. Now, Lady Gwen's last 2 races came on dirt. 1 at Remington in an off-the-turf race. If after you win an off-the-turf race like that, you feel compelled to see what else is in the condition book. So they went in a $100,000 stakes race. I believe it was on closing night at Remington, and also ran in a race won by Casual, who sat an absolutely perfect trip that night and won going away. I'm tossing that race. That race means nothing to me. The turf form that this horse has from last year is pretty darn good.
Yes.
And while it might seem like this horse is stretching out in distance off of some of the better efforts, those 7.5 furlong races at Lone Star, those are 2-turn races.
Mm-hmm.
She won both of them. She won going a mile at Remington. There's a lot to like here, especially at that kind of a price. And with that in mind, I can't single my top selection, because if Lady Gwen wins, pays $60, and I don't have Lady Gwen on my ticket, I quit gambling.
Yep, that's why we do it for horses like Lady Gwen, honestly. So love what you were able to sniff out there, Andrew. The two who you mentioned, Breeze Rider, will be on my tickets. That's the horse to beat. I thought Barista. That's you know that there's a card. A card is good, and when you can make cases for 30-1 shots, and I'm right next door making cases for 12 and 15-1 shots.
I would like Barista a lot more, if not for the post. I think she's going to need to clear and might surrender a lot of ground. If Barista was in the 4 or the 5 hole, I might have used her. It's just with that early speed, I think she's going to need to get sent from a very wide draw. The mile and a 16th is sort of like a 3-turn race coming out of that chute. Maybe she gets the trip and maybe she clears most of them. The post position is what gave me pause. She was actually the last horse I threw out.
The concern with Barista is the same concern I have with the 12 Empress Eleanor, is the post for both of them. The reason why I will include them is basically because I'm thinking the price is kind of built into that. So I think if either one of these horses were drawn inside, they'd probably be more like 6 or 8-1, and they'll probably be more like 12 or 15-1 shots here. So completely agree that it's going to be tough for them. They're going to have to work out a little bit of a trip, but the price should be built into that. With Barista, she was inside. She was third. She was traveling 2 lengths off. She was really, really traveling well. She got a nice opening inside, but she just kind of couldn't hit that inside. Sometimes we see the races where you get a big opening and it's like, why didn't the horses hit that? It's tighter than it looks. Some of them just don't want to go down inside horses. It wasn't a bad effort at all. It was the first start in a few months, and I think she will take a nice step forward off of that. So Barista is going to be on my tickets. I've always been a fan of the 12 Empress Eleanor, who I think just kind of gives you a really good run for your money each and every time. She's been at Keeneland, Kentucky, Fairgrounds, Churchill, Colonial. She ran well when she was second behind next out winner. Went back at Kentucky, was again second behind another next out winner. She got a little shuffled last time out, but she still ran well on the synthetic. So Empress Eleanor will be on the tickets for me as well. 11, 12, the 2 who Andrew mentioned. The 7's probably the one to beat. Catch a Bid. Jessica Paquette, who was on my podcast earlier this week, she liked Quinella. She was really impressed off of the big win with Quinella and thought that she may be able to step up in here. The 7 Catch a Bid was third last time out behind Summer and Saratoga. 2 starts back was behind Breeze Rider in that same spot. Didn't really get the best kind of race shape that day. I do think Breeze Rider is probably the more likely winner, but if Breeze Rider gets caught up into some sort of a pace battle, it'll probably set up for Catch a Bid. So the way that my tickets are going to be, my approach, I'll have a lot of prices. I'll have 1 or 2 earlier singles. So I don't want to leave Catch a Bid completely off. I'll probably be 2 7s, 11s, and 12s in some of the late pick 4s and pick 5s in race number 10. So we finish up the stakes portion and we get to the final race on the card. But this is an important one, Andrew. One thing to keep in mind, this is a race that's going to close out the pick 4s, the pick 5s, the pick 6s, if you're involved in any rolling exotics. Now, as important as those stakes races are, you want to make sure you handicap this race too, because if you're alive going in, you want to feel really confident about who you have to close. So tell us, if you are in that spot, how deep do you want to be, or who are some of the horses who you'd want on your ticket?
So this race is going to have a pretty heavy favorite. I think the morning line man got this one exactly right.
Yeah.
Number 7, Public Information, is going to take a ton of money coming in from New York for Mike Maker. This is a horse that I've seen run a fair bit. You're going to know if Public Information has a shot when they post that first quarter time. If the first quarter has any sort of speed to it, Public Information is going to be the horse to beat. If a horse gets loose and starts just loping along on the front end, Public Information is going to have a lot of work to do. If Public Information runs the best race he can run, he's going to be tough. There's not a lot of speed in here, though. I'm using Public Information, but I think the horse they're going to have to run down is the horse directly to that one's outside. That's number 8, Painter Party, who looked really, really good last time out, albeit against lesser company. But this was this horse's first turf start in quite a while. Sat a dream trip on the front end, one going away. earned an 81 buyer speed figure, which is the biggest number this horse has ever gotten. Got it first off the claim, off a little bit of a layoff, trying something new. I love when trainers do that. When they claim a horse, they give the horse some time and they know exactly where they want this horse to run. Well, does take a step up in class, but there's not a lot of other speed in here. No. I think Peter Party might sit the exact same trip he sat last time out. Granted, if someone goes with the 8, the 7 wins. If nobody goes with the 8, I think the 8 wins. I think it's as simple as 7-8 or 8-7. And if those two don't win, I have no idea who does.
So the horse who I am going to throw in, I agree. The 7's the horse to beat. No doubt about it. If anyone wanted to single the 7 on the back end of pick 5s or pick 4s.
You understand why. Yeah.
Totally get it. I completely understand. Makes a lot of sense. Like you were saying, and I know it shouldn't really be this way, but I have a tougher time singling horses that are with this type of running style.
Yep.
Right? It's like I want a horse, if I'm singling, like you're singling Tide of the Sea, which is nice because that's a lone speed type horse or a horse who's going to be forwardly placed. I'd always single a either lone speed or a pressing type who I think is going to be in the mix and who can work out their own trip and at least give you a good run for your money. Because the worst thing in the world is you single a horse and you just don't even get a shot.
Right.
That's like, you don't even get a sniff. You barely get a call when they're going slow. So that's frustrating. The 2 horses to the outside, I think are both a little bit interesting. So I'm definitely going to throw in our buddy Raylu, who we were just talking about, with the 12, Champ Success. This horse might be able to get, I don't know, to the lead, but because they're drawn outside, I think maybe they will even be a little more aggressive to try to at least get over, not try to have a really, really wide trip, flash some speed, going a mile and a 16th last time out. Heck, this is a horse who's got some 5 furlong turf races there and was forwardly placed going 7.5. If you look at the last race on November the 16th, I like using that runner who, as we've seen come back at the meet so far, Johan Zofani, and has performed pretty well so far at Sam Houston, was second behind Conviction Trade, who we saw earlier on in that stakes race in the Connolly. And this horse ran awesome on January 21st, was out in the middle of the track. It looked like they were going to win at 15-1. I had Johan Zofani that day. So obviously these are the horses who I pay attention to more, the ones that you just get beat on. But then the horse came back, didn't have the best of trips, but just looking at where this one stacks up, I feel like it's from a class level, that Champ Success kind of fits, and Half Ours to Keep was in that very same spot last time out. So right to the inside, Half Ours to Keep, you'll notice, comes off of a recent win. Half Ours to Keep is a horse who, for connections, you know with these connections that they're always going to be getting a lot of money. This horse is probably very well meant. He goes from Broberg to Asmussen. So I'll probably throw the 11 in, at least under in some spots, probably mainly 7-12s for me here, Andrew. And then one other on a big underneath horse, if anyone's playing Exactas Tries, or if you want to have a bunch of bombs late, Lethal Move, who isn't in the best of recent form, but he has an okay third last time out. And maybe that was like a little bit of a wake-up call, because this horse actually has some pretty good grass races to go back to. Some grass races going long that would stack up with this group. So I'm going to throw in the 6 if on like the crazy deeper tickets or underneath spots, but lots of 7-12s for me here, as Andrew and I both kind of are looking for the horse that's going to be able to show some speed, or one or two of them that'll be forwardly placed in here. So Andrew, my friend, we almost end up going 90 minutes. I feel like we could have gone a couple more hours, man. It's just a couple buddies talking racing, navigating their way through the DRF past performances with Formulator on a fantastic Sunday card out at Sam Houston. Thanks so much for waking up early with me and hanging out, man. This was a blast, and hopefully we were able to steer a few people who've been listening and watching in the right direction.
Fingers, toes, and eyes crossed, man. This is a really good card. And look, if you're in the position we're in, where maybe you took some stands on Pegasus Day against favorites you thought were vulnerable and fell victim to a chalk parade, you're going to want to dive in here, because there aren't a lot of heavy chalks in these sorts of races. It's a good card. I'm excited to dive in and place some bets before I go out for the day. It's going to be a lot of fun. Best of luck with all your wagers, everybody.
wanted to just give a shout to our friends over at DRF Sports. Also, they have a cool promotion for anyone out there in Iowa. They're boosting the Chiefs money line to plus 100 for the AFC Championship there. So you can check out all the details there if you follow at DRF Sports or drf.com/sports. Check all that stuff out. All that great information that you saw us looking through with DRF in the past performances. Now they have that for all the sports games. If you want to look at a football game or a basketball game or a college basketball game, that to me is where the DRF sports stuff is the best, like college basketball or sports where there are a ton of teams that you may not know. Everybody kind of knows the football teams, like the major players, the major storylines, the major narratives, but the more difficult sports come March Madness time, DRF Sports is going to really help you. Every game, there's a matchup. There's a score prediction. They tell you what their line should be. So the same way you get the help with the races, now you can get it with all the sports there with DRF Sports. Andrew, my friend, good luck today on this Sunday. I know you're a football fan too. You're probably going to be involved playing some fantasy, watching these games, and playing some Sam Houston all day long. And Andrew, tell us a little bit about your new venture before we get out of here. I know that you're going to be posting selections and stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of really cool stuff for the folks over at Katina Media. I just started a brand spanking new job there on Wednesday. Really excited to be able to produce some high quality content. I did some stuff on the Pegasus that you may or may not have read, but follow me at Andrew Champagne. I'll be able to tweet everything that I do there. That's where you're going to want to see everything that I do. I will still be doing all of the Saratoga stuff that I've been doing the past couple of years, so you're not going to be able to miss anything there. But Andrew Champagne on Twitter is the best place to follow me, at Andrew Champagne there. AndrewChampagne.com is my website. I'll still potentially be doing some stuff there as well.
Andrew, buddy, good luck today. Thank you so much. And honestly, everyone out there, thank you so much. The last month or so for live streams, and that's what G said content, the numbers have been excellent. I really appreciate all of you. There's so much great content out there, TV shows, movies, podcasts, everybody's doing stuff. If you hang out for us with 1 second, from 1 second to 1 hour, I'm so, and some of you stay around for 5 hours on some of those shows. I'm so pleased that I can't even believe it. So thank you all. I hope you all have a fantastic Sunday. Make some money. Good luck in the football games. Good luck at Sam Houston. I hope the whole crew over there, Jessica Paquette, Frank Hopp, Nick Tamaro, everyone over there. Martha Clausen's going to be out there today. They do a fantastic job. They have a great crew. Good luck.